Question 1. During a sprint, a developer discovers that a high-priority product backlog item they committed to cannot be completed by the end of the sprint due to an unexpected technical dependency. What is the most appropriate action for the developer to take? A. Inform the product owner, wait for their instruction, and then update the sprint backlog. B. Self-manage with the rest of the developers to find an alternative solution or adjust the sprint backlog to reflect reality, potentially escalating to the product owner and Scrum Master if the sprint goal is at risk. C. Immediately stop working on the item and pick up another product backlog item without consulting anyone, to ensure they remain busy. D. Work extra hours to ensure the item is completed as originally planned, regardless of the dependency. Answer: B. Self-manage with the rest of the developers to find an alternative solution or adjust the sprint backlog to reflect reality, potentially escalating to the product owner and Scrum Master if the sprint goal is at risk. Developers in Scrum are self-managing and cross-functional, meaning they have the authority and responsibility to manage their own work and collaborate to achieve the sprint goal. When an impediment or unexpected dependency arises, the most appropriate first step is for the developers to collaborate among themselves to find a solution or adjust their plan. If the sprint goal is threatened, or they cannot resolve it themselves, they should then proactively communicate this to the product owner and Scrum Master to inspect the situation and adapt the plan. This approach embodies the Scrum value of courage and commitment, enabling the team to respond transparently to change. Always remember that the developers are empowered to manage their own work within the sprint to achieve the sprint goal. Question 2. A Scrum team has just finished their sprint review. The product owner expresses disappointment because the increment does not include a critical feature they discussed during sprint planning. Upon inspection, the development team reveals they worked on other items from the sprint backlog that they deemed easier to complete. What Scrum principle or artifact was most likely violated? A. Transparency, because the sprint backlog was not visible to the product owner. B. Empiricism, by failing to regularly inspect and adapt the product backlog. C. The sprint goal, as the team shifted focus from the agreed-upon objective. D. The definition of done, because the feature was not fully completed. Answer: C. The sprint goal, as the team shifted focus from the agreed-upon objective. The sprint goal is a single objective for the sprint that the product backlog items are aligned to achieve, creating coherence and focus for the Scrum team. In this scenario, by choosing to work on easier items rather than the critical feature aligned with the sprint goal, the developers violated their commitment to that shared objective. While other principles might be tangentially related, the direct violation here is the abandonment of the agreed-upon sprint goal, which acts as a guide during the sprint. Always remember that the sprint goal provides flexibility in the work while ensuring the team remains focused on a common objective. Question 3. What is the primary purpose of the daily Scrum? A. To report progress to the Scrum Master and product owner. B. To inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary. C. To discuss and resolve all technical issues encountered by the developers. D. To review the product backlog items that will be worked on in the next few days. Answer: B. To inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary. The daily Scrum is a 15-minute event for the developers to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog for the upcoming workday. It is an internal planning meeting for the developers, not a status report to stakeholders or management. While technical issues might be briefly mentioned if they impact progress, deep dive problem solving typically happens outside this time box. This event enhances transparency, promotes self-management, and ensures the team remains focused and aligned on achieving the sprint goal. Think of it as a daily sync-up for the team to coordinate their efforts effectively. Question 4. A product owner asks the Scrum Master to force the developers to increase their velocity, stating that the team is not producing enough features. How should the Scrum Master respond to this request? A. Coach the product owner on the importance of sustainable pace and the unsuitability of velocity as a performance metric for individuals or for forcing output. B. Tell the developers that the product owner wants them to increase their velocity immediately. C. Agree with the product owner and help them establish individual performance metrics for the developers. D. Suggest that the product owner prioritize smaller items in the product backlog to show an increase in velocity more quickly. Answer. A. Coach the product owner on the importance of sustainable pace and the unsuitability of velocity as a performance metric for individuals or for forcing output. The Scrum Master serves the product owner by helping them understand empiricism and maximizing value, and serves the organization in general by helping it understand Scrum. Velocity is a forecast and a measure of the amount of work an individual Scrum team has completed in a sprint, useful for forecasting, but not a tool to micromanage or compare teams. Forcing an increase can lead to lower quality, unsustainable pace, and diminished team morale. The Scrum Master's role here is to coach the product owner on the true purpose of Scrum metrics and the importance of a sustainable pace for delivering value. Remember, sustainable pace is key to long-term productivity and quality in Scrum. Question 5. The developers are having difficulty estimating the effort for a new, complex product backlog item. The product owner insists on a precise estimate before sprint planning can continue, delaying the start of the sprint. What is the most appropriate action for the Scrum Master to facilitate? A. Encourage the developers to make a best guess estimate to move forward, explaining that estimates are not commitments. B. Mediate a discussion between the developers and product owner about the uncertainty and explore options for breaking down the item or conducting a spike. C. Tell the product owner that estimating is the developer's responsibility and they should just provide one. D. Advise the product owner to remove the complex item from the sprint, as it's causing too much delay. Answer. B. Mediate a discussion between the developers and product owner about the uncertainty and explore options for breaking down the item or conducting a spike. The Scrum Master acts as a facilitator and coach, ensuring the Scrum team adheres to Scrum practices and values. When facing uncertainty with complex items, the Scrum Master should help the team, including the product owner, understand that detailed upfront estimates for uncertain work are often counterproductive. Instead, they should facilitate a conversation to explore ways to reduce uncertainty, such as refining the item further, breaking it into smaller, more manageable pieces, or perhaps conducting a spike, a time-boxed research or exploration task, in a future sprint to gather more information. This approach embraces empiricism by acknowledging uncertainty and focusing on learning. Always remember that Scrum thrives on adapting to uncertainty rather than trying to eliminate it with rigid plans. Question 6. During a sprint retrospective, the Scrum team identifies that their definition of done is too vague and sometimes leads to unfinished work being considered done. What is the best course of action for the team? A. The Scrum Master should update the definition of done and present it to the team for approval. B. The product owner should work with stakeholders to define a more precise definition of done for the team. C. The developers should collaborate to update the definition of done to ensure increment quality, potentially consulting with the product owner and stakeholders. D. The team should ignore the current definition of done and focus on completing more items in the next sprint. Answer. C. The developers should collaborate to update the definition of done to ensure increment quality, potentially consulting with the product owner and stakeholders. The definition of done creates a shared understanding of what it means for work to be complete on the increment. It is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. While the entire Scrum team is accountable for creating a valuable, useful increment, the developers are specifically accountable for creating and adapting the definition of done, ensuring quality. If a change to the definition of done is necessary, the developers collaboratively update it, ensuring they understand and commit to the new standard, consulting with others as needed. This self-managing approach ensures accountability and commitment to quality within the team. Question 7. The Scrum Master notices that during the daily Scrum, developers often go into deep discussions about specific technical solutions for over 30 minutes, significantly exceeding the time box. What should the Scrum Master do? A. Intervene and remind them that the daily Scrum is a 15-minute event for inspecting progress and adapting the sprint backlog, suggesting they take detailed technical discussions offline. B. Allow the discussion to continue, as it shows strong collaboration among the developers. C. Suggest the team extends the daily Scrum time box to 30 minutes to accommodate these discussions. D. Take notes during the discussion and summarize the agreed-upon technical solutions for the developers later. Answer. A. Intervene and remind them that the daily Scrum is a 15-minute event for inspecting progress and adapting the sprint backlog, suggesting they take detailed technical discussions offline. The Scrum Master is responsible for ensuring the Scrum team adheres to Scrum's timeboxes and rules. The daily Scrum is timeboxed to 15 minutes specifically to keep it focused on inspecting progress toward the sprint goal and adapting the sprint backlog. While collaboration is encouraged, deep-dive technical problem-solving should occur immediately after the daily Scrum, involving only those who need to be present, to respect everyone's time. The Scrum Master's role is to guide the team to effectively use the event's purpose and timebox. Remember, timeboxes help keep events focused and efficient, preventing them from becoming unproductive long meetings. Question 8. The product owner is struggling to manage a very large product backlog with hundreds of items, making it difficult to identify the most valuable work. What is the most appropriate way for the Scrum Master to help the product owner? A. Suggest breaking down the large product backlog into multiple smaller product backlogs, each managed by a different product owner. B. Coach the product owner on various product backlog refinement techniques, such as ordering, sizing, and breaking down large items. C. Take over the management of the product backlog for the product owner to help reduce their workload. D. Advise the product owner to only keep items in the product backlog that are ready for the next sprint. Answer. B. Coach the product owner on various product backlog refinement techniques, such as ordering, sizing, and breaking down large items. The Scrum Master serves the product owner by helping them find techniques for effective product backlog management. A large, unrefined product backlog can obscure the most valuable work and hinder transparency. The Scrum Master should coach the product owner on refinement practices like breaking down large items into smaller, clearer ones, ordering items by value, risk, or dependency, and ensuring they are ready for future sprints. This empowers the product owner to effectively manage their own accountability for maximizing product value. Always remember that effective product backlog refinement is crucial for successful sprint planning and delivering value. Question 9. Which statement best describes the accountability of the product owner regarding the product backlog? A. The product owner is accountable for managing the product backlog, but the developers are responsible for ordering it. B. The product owner is accountable for clearly expressing product backlog items and ordering them to maximize value, regardless of who performs the work. C. The product owner is accountable for ensuring the product backlog is refined and updated only during sprint planning. D. The product owner is accountable for approving all work done by the developers during the sprint. Answer. B. The product owner is accountable for clearly expressing product backlog items and ordering them to maximize value, regardless of who performs the work. The product owner is singularly accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. This accountability extends to the content, availability, and ordering of the product backlog. While developers may help with refinement, the product owner holds the ultimate accountability for ensuring the product backlog reflects the most valuable work and is ordered appropriately. This clear accountability ensures a single point of decision-making for product direction. Think of the product owner as the ultimate steward of the product's value and vision. Question 10. A new team member joins the Scrum team mid-sprint. What is the most appropriate way to integrate them into the ongoing sprint? A. Assign them to a specific product backlog item that is not yet started, and have them work on it independently. B. Have the Scrum Master mentor them individually on all Scrum practices and the project's technical details before they join any team activities. C. The developers should integrate them into the team's ongoing work, help them understand the sprint goal, and show them how the sprint backlog is being managed. D. Wait until the next sprint to fully onboard them, as integrating mid-sprint could disrupt the current sprint goal. Answer: C. The developers should integrate them into the team's ongoing work, help them understand the sprint goal, and show them how the sprint backlog is being managed. The Scrum team, particularly the developers, are self-managing and cross-functional. When a new member joins, it is the collective responsibility of the developers to integrate them into the team's ongoing work, help them understand the sprint goal, and orient them to the sprint backlog in current progress. The Scrum Master can coach the team on effective onboarding, but the actual integration is a team responsibility, embodying the Scrum value of commitment and respect. Remember, a self-managing team takes collective ownership of its members and their success. Question 11. During a sprint, a stakeholder approaches a developer directly and requests a new, urgent feature be added to the current sprint backlog immediately. What should the developer do? A. Agree to add the feature, as stakeholders' requests are important, and quietly integrate it into their work. B. Inform the product owner about the request, as they are accountable for the product backlog. C. Explain to the stakeholder that changes to the sprint backlog are only possible during sprint planning. D. Work on the new feature in secret and reveal it at the sprint review to surprise the stakeholder. Answer: B. Inform the product owner about the request, as they are accountable for the product backlog. The product owner is solely accountable for the product backlog, including its content, ordering, and availability. Any new requests or changes to the product scope, even urgent ones, must go through the product owner to be prioritized and considered for future sprints. Developers should not accept work directly from stakeholders during a sprint, as this can disrupt the sprint goal and undermine the product owner's accountability. This practice ensures transparency and maintains a clear channel for managing product requirements. Always funnel new requests through the product owner to maintain a coherent product backlog and sprint focus. Question 12. Which of the following is not a true statement about the sprint goal? A. It creates coherence for the increment and the work the developers do. B. It is created by the product owner at the beginning of the sprint, without input from the developers. C. It is the single objective for the sprint. D. It provides flexibility regarding the exact work needed to achieve it. Answer: B. It is created by the product owner at the beginning of the sprint, without input from the developers. The sprint goal is a crucial element of the sprint, and while the product owner proposes how the product could increase its value and utility in the current sprint, the entire Scrum team collaborates to define the sprint goal during sprint planning. It is a shared commitment that provides a clear objective and flexibility for the developers within the sprint. The sprint goal helps the developers understand why they are building the increment and guides them if the scope needs to be adjusted. Collaborative creation ensures buy-in and a shared understanding across the team. Question 13. A Scrum team has completed a sprint. The increment is done according to their definition of done. However, the product owner decides not to release this increment to users immediately. What is the implication of this decision? A. The increment is not truly done because it has not been released. B. The product owner has the sole accountability to release the increment at their discretion, and this is a valid decision as long as the increment is truly done. C. The developers should protest the decision, as their work is being wasted by not being released. D. The product owner must wait until multiple increments are accumulated before a release can occur. Answer: B. The product owner has the sole accountability to release the increment at their discretion, and this is a valid decision as long as the increment is truly done. The product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product, which includes managing when and how the increment is released. The definition of done ensures that a done increment is usable and potentially releasable at the end of every sprint, regardless of whether the product owner chooses to release it immediately. The decision to release or not release is a business decision that falls under the product owner's accountability for value maximization. The key here is that the work is potentially releasable, indicating it meets quality standards, allowing the product owner flexibility. Question 14. What does it mean for the Scrum team to be cross-functional? A. Each team member has multiple certifications and can perform different project management roles. B. The team contains all the expertise necessary to create value each sprint without depending on others not part of the team. C. The team members are experts in different programming languages and technologies. D. The team reports to multiple functional managers across the organization. Answer: B. The team contains all the expertise necessary to create value each sprint without depending on others not part of the team. Cross-functional means that the Scrum team as a whole possesses all the skills and expertise needed to create an increment from conception to delivery without relying on external individuals or teams for critical work. This self-contained nature minimizes dependencies, streamlines communication, and allows the team to deliver value autonomously each sprint. It does not mean every individual possesses every skill, but rather that the collective team does. Think of it as a mini-company within the organization, fully equipped to deliver. Question 15. The Scrum Master observes that the product backlog is consistently unrefined and contains many large, poorly understood items at the start of sprint planning, leading to inefficient planning sessions. What is the best action for the Scrum Master to take? A. Insist that the product owner must have the entire product backlog fully refined before sprint planning can begin. B. Facilitate product backlog refinement activities throughout the sprint, educating the team on effective techniques. C. Take over the product backlog refinement process themselves to ensure it is done properly. D. Recommend that the product owner outsource product backlog management to a business analyst. Answer: B. Facilitate product backlog refinement activities throughout the sprint, educating the team on effective techniques. The Scrum Master serves the product owner by helping them find techniques for effective product backlog management and ensuring the Scrum team understands empiricism. Product backlog refinement is an ongoing activity, not a single event, where the Scrum team adds detail, estimates, and order to product backlog items. The Scrum Master should coach the team on how to perform refinement effectively and emphasize its importance for smooth sprint planning and continuous flow of value. This proactive coaching supports transparency and helps the team prepare for future sprints. Question 16. A new manager joins the organization and demands to be present at every daily Scrum to monitor the developer's progress and assign daily tasks. How should the Scrum Master address this situation? A. Allow the manager to attend, as their presence might motivate the team to work harder. B. Politely explain to the manager that the daily Scrum is an event for the developers to inspect their progress toward the sprint goal and adjust their plan, and it's not a status meeting for management. C. Encourage the developers to provide detailed individual progress reports to the manager during the daily Scrum to satisfy their request. D. Inform the product owner, as it is their responsibility to manage stakeholder expectations. Answer: B. Politely explain to the manager that the daily Scrum is an event for the developers to inspect their progress toward the sprint goal and adjust their plan, and it's not a status meeting for management. The Scrum Master is responsible for ensuring the Scrum team adheres to Scrum and coaching stakeholders on how to interact with the Scrum team. The daily Scrum is a 15-minute planning event for the developers, where they coordinate their work to achieve the sprint goal. It is not a status meeting for external stakeholders or managers to assign tasks. The Scrum Master should educate the manager on the purpose of the daily Scrum and suggest alternative ways for them to gain insights, such as attending the sprint review. This protects the team's self-management and focus. Question 17. Which Scrum value is most emphasized when a Scrum team transparently shares progress, challenges, and decisions with each other and stakeholders, even when facing difficulties? A. Focus. B. Respect. C. Openness. D. Courage. Answer: C. Openness. Openness means the Scrum team and its stakeholders are open about the work and the challenges with performing the work. When a team transparently shares progress, challenges, and decisions, especially difficulties, they are demonstrating openness, which is a foundational Scrum value supporting empiricism. While courage might be needed to be open about challenges, the act of sharing itself is primarily an expression of openness. This value builds trust and enables timely inspection and adaptation. Question 18. The Scrum Master observes that the developers are regularly working on tasks outside of the sprint goal, picked up from various sources. What is the Scrum Master's best course of action? A. Advise the developers that all work must align with the sprint goal and come from the product backlog, coaching them on the importance of focus. B. Report this behavior to the product owner, so they can address it with the developers. C. Ignore it, as it shows the developers are being proactive and helpful. D. Take over the management of the sprint backlog to ensure only sprint goal-related items are worked on. Answer: A. Advise the developers that all work must align with the sprint goal and come from the product backlog, coaching them on the importance of focus. The sprint goal is the single objective for the sprint, providing coherence and focus for the developers. The Scrum Master serves the developers by helping them understand and adhere to Scrum, which includes emphasizing the importance of staying focused on the sprint goal and the items selected from the product backlog. Working on unaligned tasks undermines the sprint goal, reduces transparency, and can jeopardize the team's ability to deliver a done increment. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the team to maintain focus and protect the sprint from unplanned work. Question 19. A Scrum team has a definition of done that states all code must be unit tested. However, during the sprint review, stakeholders discover several bugs and features that were presented as done. What is the likely cause of this issue, given the definition of done was in place? A. The definition of done is incomplete and needs to include more rigorous testing types. B. The developers did not adhere to the definition of done, potentially skipping unit tests. C. The product owner failed to prioritize quality over speed. D. The sprint review was not thorough enough to catch the bugs. Answer: B. The developers did not adhere to the definition of done, potentially skipping unit tests. The definition of done serves as a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. If features are presented as done, but have bugs despite a unit tested clause in the DoD, it strongly suggests that the developers, who are accountable for adhering to the DoD, did not follow it consistently. While the DoD could always be improved, the immediate problem is a lack of adherence to the existing one, which undermines transparency and the quality commitment. The Scrum team must commit to meeting the definition of done for every increment. Question 20. The product owner frequently changes the order of the product backlog items mid-sprint, causing confusion and rework for the developers. What is the most appropriate action for the Scrum Master to take? A. Tell the product owner that they are not allowed to change the product backlog during a sprint. B. Coach the product owner on the impact of frequent changes to the sprint backlog and sprint goal, and explain the purpose of the sprint as a time box for achieving a focused objective. C. Facilitate a discussion between the product owner and developers about product backlog refinement best practices, emphasizing stability within a sprint. D. Ask the developers to ignore the changes and continue working on the originally selected items. Answer: C. Facilitate a discussion between the product owner and developers about product backlog refinement best practices, emphasizing stability within a sprint. While the product owner has the authority to change the product backlog, frequent and disruptive changes during a sprint undermine the sprint goal and the stability needed for the developers to focus and deliver. The Scrum Master's role is to help the Scrum team and stakeholders understand and apply Scrum. Facilitating a conversation about product backlog refinement, the sprint goal's role as a commitment, and the impact of mid-sprint changes helps everyone understand the importance of stability within the sprint while still allowing adaptation. This approach respects the product owner's accountability while protecting the developer's ability to deliver. Question 21. What is the primary purpose of the sprint review? A. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. B. To discuss the team's performance and identify areas for process improvement. C. To demonstrate unfinished work to stakeholders for feedback. D. To secure approval from management for the next sprint's work. Answer: A. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. The sprint review is a working session where the Scrum team and stakeholders collaborate on what was done in the sprint and what has changed in their environment. Based on this, attendees inspect the increment and collaborate on the next steps. This inspection of the product and adaptation of the product backlog is its primary purpose, ensuring empiricism is applied to the product's evolution. It is not about performance review or getting management approval, but rather a collaborative opportunity to optimize the value of the next period. Question 22. A Scrum team finds themselves often running out of time during sprint planning to thoroughly discuss and select items for the upcoming sprint. What is the most likely cause of this issue? A. The sprint time box is too short, and should be extended. B. Product backlog refinement is not occurring frequently or effectively enough. C. The Scrum Master is not facilitating the meeting properly. D. The developers are not providing accurate estimates. Answer: B. Product backlog refinement is not occurring frequently or effectively enough. Product backlog refinement is the ongoing activity of adding detail, estimates, and order to product backlog items, and it typically consumes no more than 10% of the developer's time. If sprint planning consistently lacks sufficient time for discussion and selection, it often indicates that items entering the sprint planning event are not adequately understood, estimated, or broken down. Effective refinement throughout the sprint ensures that product backlog items are ready for sprint planning, making the event more efficient and focused on actual planning. Therefore, better ongoing refinement is the likely solution. Question 23. Who is accountable for ensuring the sprint goal is achieved? A. The product owner. B. The Scrum Master. C. The developers. D. The entire Scrum team. Answer: D. The entire Scrum team. The sprint goal is a commitment for the sprint backlog, and the entire Scrum team is collectively accountable for achieving it. While the developers are committed to delivering the increment that fulfills the sprint goal, and the product owner defines the goal, the success or failure of reaching this objective belongs to the whole team. This shared accountability fosters collaboration, commitment, and a collective sense of purpose. Remember, Scrum emphasizes collective ownership and responsibility for outcomes. Question 24. A Scrum team has been consistently failing to meet its sprint goals. During the sprint retrospective, the Scrum Master attempts to facilitate a discussion to uncover the root causes. However, the developers are hesitant to openly share challenges or admit mistakes. Which Scrum value is most lacking in this scenario? A. Commitment. B. Courage. C. Focus. D. Respect. Answer: B. Courage. Courage is a key Scrum value, enabling people to do the right thing and work on tough problems. In this scenario, the hesitation to openly share challenges or admit mistakes suggests a lack of courage within the team. For a sprint retrospective to be effective and for the team to truly learn and improve, members must feel brave enough to be transparent about impediments and failures. The Scrum Master's role is to foster an environment where this courage can thrive, leading to open discussion and genuine process improvements. Question 25. An increment is considered done when it meets the definition of done. What is the state of a done increment? A. It is approved by the product owner and ready for release only if all features are complete. B. It is usable and potentially releasable to end users, regardless of whether the product owner chooses to release it. C. It requires further testing by a quality assurance team before it can be considered complete. D. It means all sprint backlog items are moved to the done column, even if not fully integrated. Answer: B. It is usable and potentially releasable to end users, regardless of whether the product owner chooses to release it. The definition of done ensures that a done increment is always usable and potentially releasable. This means it adheres to all quality standards, is fully integrated with previous increments, and meets all criteria for release, even if the product owner decides to hold the release for strategic reasons. This commitment to a consistently releasable increment at the end of every sprint is a cornerstone of Scrum's empirical process control, ensuring transparency and reducing risk. Always think of the definition of done as a commitment to quality and readiness for delivery.